good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today I'm going to be showing you what I consider to be one of the most underplayed cards in the Pokemon trading card game. It's Zygarde EX, although Zygarde EX is starting to see a little bit more love, it's starting to see a little bit more success. There have been players that have top cut with this card, most recently at the Fort Wayne Regionals this past weekend in the USA. There have been other players like Luke Kirkham in the UK who's come very, very close to making top cut with this at Dortmund Regionals in Europe, and other lovely players like Jeffrey Tallman who have had very good runs with Zygarde. So, let's start with the basics, and at first look, this card is awesome. 190 HP is, except for Wailord, which is a bit silly, as high as we get in terms of HP. That is ridiculous. Now, the weakness to grass seems a little bit awkward, but actually, the only real grass cards played at the moment are Vespiquen and Yanmega, neither of whom are too relevant at the moment. Now, we know I talk about Lurantis GX way too much in my recent videos, but for the moment, because Lurantis isn't going to be out until February, for the moment, Zygarde's weakness is not bad. Now, as for typing, you know, you're hitting things for weakness like Zoroark, for instance, like Darkrai. There are a few things around. Most electric Pokemon and a whole bunch of Dark are weak to fighting. This is good. Now, the big downside with the typing, of course, is that fighting is, I believe I'm right in saying this, the most common resistance in the game. We've got all the Yveltals, Shaymin, Yanmega, Rayquaza. I could go on, but you get the point. Fighting is resisted by a lot. The good news is that most of the cards that resist fighting are also weak to lightning. So what you can do is play Zebstrika here, who will feast on all of those Pokemon, and you can sit there laughing. Now, Zygarde has 3 attacks, and they're all pretty good. Lampulse, 20 damage, for 1 energy is not great. But of course, strong energy exists, so now that's 40 damage for a single energy on turn 1 because he's a basic. Then, of course, if there's a stadium in play, you're actually doing 60 damage for a single energy on turn 1. Now, it is a shame that Fighting Stadium has rotated out of the standard format, because that would then put it up to 80, and that would be awesome. Now, I did do a video about donking with Zygarde winning on turn 1. I'll pop a link in the description. This video is not that. This video is how to play Zygarde and the different options we've got, rather than specifically trying to donk. The second attack, 2 energy, 60 damage, heal 30. Now, healing 30 every turn is not insignificant, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, that 60 can easily be put up to 100 with 2 strong energy. Let's not forget that Zygarde is a basic and Fighting Fury Belt is in play. So actually, Lampulse could quite easily be 70 with a strong energy and a Fighting Fury Belt. And Southstorm could be 110 with 2 strong energies and a Fighting Fury Belt. And that's 110 while healing 30 every time you attack. Now, Land's Wrath is a flat 100. Okay, it's not ideal, but you know what? With strong energy, it's not too bad at all, because you can make this up to, 170 with 3 strong and a Fighting Fury Belt. Now, I know that 3 strong and a Fighting Fury Belt is not always that easy to do, but remember that 170 will one-hit KO EXs. Here, we've got tanking ability, we've got 3 attacks, we can attack on the very first turn of the game, we've got Fighting Fury Belt, we've got strong energy. This looks like a very good card straight off the bat. Now, we're going to look at some partners for him in a minute, but just in terms of cards that could be good with him. If we think about stadiums, now, we need a stadium for the first attack, and it could be any stadium at all, but I quite like things like Faded Town would be nice here, because of course Faded Town you get to go ahead and put 20 damage or 2 damage counters on Mega Pokemon between turns, which means you're chipping away doing extra damage. This helps against your Mega Pokemon matchups. Not only that, but you could play Silent Lab. You need less than your opponent, so you get an energy or 2 on Zygarde, a Fighting Fury Bout, and then you drop a Silent Lab. Your opponent needs things like Hooper and Shaymin to set up and recover. You just need a couple of basics and a couple of energy. So you could play Silent Lab to boost your damage output and to disrupt your opponent. Now, there are a whole bunch of other cards we need to think about other than the stadiums. I'm not saying they're the only stadiums, by the way. I'm saying they're, off the top of my head, by which I mean having a good look, the two stadiums which came to mind. Now, Strong Energy's an obvious one here. You do 20 extra damage. Yeah, I know people are playing things like Enhanced Hammer and Promo Jirachi to get rid of Special Energy, which is a pain, but I still love it way too much. It's too darn good. Now, there are actually two tools we might be using in this deck. First of all, we've got the obvious Fighting Fury belt, which, 40 extra HP, 10 extra damage, that's pretty good. But we also have Power Memory. Now, this should remind some people of Zygarde EX and G Booster, except this you can play as many as you can play 4 in your deck. You could play Eco Arm even to recover them, but I'm not sure why you'd need to. Free energy, discard them all. Well, if you have more than 3, you only discard 3. 200 damage for the probably best named attack in the Pokemon trading card game, All Cells Burn. I've not found a better name for an attack than that, and I don't think you have either. If you have, that's what the comments are there for. 200 damage with 1 strong energy, you're up to 220. This is one-hit KOing Mega EX territory. So, this is very, very nice indeed. Honestly here, ladies and gentlemen, you want to mix. Fighting Fury Belt is good, but Power Memory is too good not to at least play one of in your deck, just to go boom, All Cells Burn, awesome one-hit KO. Now, depending on which attack you're using, if you're using the first attack, hitting for 70 for 1 energy with a strong and a Fighting Fury belt, then Max Potion can be very, very good here. Even for a strong energy, you've got Special Charge now to recover it, so discarding it's not as bad as it used to be. You can fully heal, and if you've got 230 HP, hitting for 70 and then full healing every turn with Max Potion, there is a lot of scope here. This could be fun. The other card I quite like, and this suits well with Silent Lab, Red Card, or even Judge. You need fewer resources than your opponent needs, so you can go ahead and red card or judge them to a hand of 4, leave a Silent Lab in play, and just be sitting there poking away. The good thing about Zygarde EX, the biggest thing he has, is the fact that he is such an efficient attacker. So take advantage of that efficiency, hitting for a decent amount of damage for not much energy, and then just sit there and heal, and sit there and disrupt them, and this is one way to play the deck. I'm not saying it's the best way, I'm saying it's one thing you could do for funsies. Now, in terms of partners, Zygarde's got a few. Now, the one I would think, and I could be wrong about this, do correct me in the comments if you wish, but the one partner which I think is universal here is Carbink. Now, we've got the Carbink with Safeguard, prevent all effective attacks, including damage, done to him by Pokemon EX. Yes, it's an ability, so things like Hex Maniac and Garbodor turn it off, but I'm still okay with this. Because what you do is you evolve him into Carbink Break. Now, you could use a Wally to do it turn 1, but I fear that might introduce some inconsistency here. When you evolve, you get the attack Diamond Gift. 20 damage for 1 energy, but remember, strong energy will boost this up. Attach 2 energy cards from your discard pile to one of your fighting Pokemon. And it says energy cards, not basic energy. So you can use this to accelerate strong energy. So you can discard 2 strong energy with an Ultra Ball, and then attach them to a Zygarde using Carbink. This is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. This is awesome. Carbink is wonderful. And I would say no matter which version of the deck you're playing, I think Carbink is a standard here. Now, as a side note, I did a video about a Giratina which is coming out in December. That Giratina will turn off Carbink's ability if you break Evolve. It's a pain. We'll see how often it's played. Now, Carbink also helps really nicely against a couple of counters, because Zygarde is a basic Pokemon, and he's an EX, so people might use Regirock to stop you attacking with the EX, or they might use Jolteon to stop you attacking with a basic. Well, Carbink Break is an evolved Pokemon, so he can hit Regice, who doesn't one-hit KO him, And he can hit Jolteon, who doesn't one-hit KO him, but he's hitting Jolteon for weakness. One strong energy and hitting 80 to a Jolteon, they're two-hit KOing, you're two-hit KOing, but you're a single-prize Pokemon, they give up 2. And if your opponent brings out a Glaceon to try and stop your Carbink break, well, you've got Zygarde, who can one-hit KO with things like All Cells Burn. Oh yes, this covers it very nicely indeed. Now, we do have Regirock. Regirock has a big plus and a big minus. The big plus is 10 extra damage, so actually what we could be doing here is not actually be hitting for 70 for 1 energy with your Strong and your Fighting Fury bout, but you can get some Regirock on the bench and be hitting for, if you get 4 Regirock out, up to 110 for 1 energy while healing and disrupting. The big downside of Regirock, he has a retreat cost of 3. He is Lysander fodder, ladies and gentlemen, and there will be games where he gets dragged into the active and you can't get him out of the active. Now, I'm a big Regirock fan, and the next video I'm uploading is going to mention a different Regirock, and it's not even the promo that I've also made a video about. So believe me when I say I love me some Regirock. It depends what kind of deck you're playing. He takes up bench space, he's a Lysander target, but he allows you to do more damage. Now, the other partners I like are firstly Vileplume. Now, this is what Jeffrey Tallman was playing him with. And the theory here is, like I said about with Red Card and Silent Lab, you're hitting very efficiently for low energy, doing decent damage. So you play it with Vileplume, you block your opponent's trainers, and just sit there, you know, hitting for 70 a turn or 60 a turn. But you're hitting for 60 a turn with 190 HP Pokemon, or 70 over 230 if you got Fighting Fury bout, while your opponent is item locked. This sounds pretty good to me. And along the same theory, Garbodor. Again, you're sitting there hitting efficiently, but now they're ability locked. And if you're going to play Zygarde with Garbodor, you could still play something like Judge or Red Card as well. To be perfectly honest, anything can go as a partner with Zygarde. And the reason, very simply, is that he hits for such low energy, so efficiently, that you need a few Zygarde, some Fighting Fury bouts, some strong energy, maybe a couple of basic, and outside of that you can fill your deck up with whatever you want. So you could just play a fighting deck with Carbink, or you could play Vileplume, or you could play Garbodor, or you could play a 2-2 Striker line, and just be worried about things like Yveltal. Or you could play a few Volcanion, because you're worried about coming against grass decks like Vespiquen, for instance. This deck could be played with anything, because you don't need many cards for Zygarde. There's so many different ways to play him, and this is why I'm so surprised he hasn't seen as much play. He is very, very flexible, I think is a nice way to put it. Now, there are a couple of other ways you can play this deck. You can play it with hammers, Enhanced Hammer, Crushing Hammer, Team Flare Grunt. I'm going to sit here and get rid of all your energy while I smash with Zygarde, because again, I'm hitting for nice consistent damage. Maybe consider putting Eradicate in here to clean up after you've played all of these hammers. Could be fun. The other thing, and this is really the video I spoke about earlier, you could just play a pure speed version. Play a whole bunch of Max Elixir to get energy on Regirock nice and early, given that he's a basic. Play the full complement of 4 Regirock. Use Hooper to get Regirock out. Maybe use Skyfield to extend your bench so you can play all the Hooper and Regirock and Shaymin, and just try and set up nice and early on turn 1, get a whole bunch of energy on a whole bunch of Regirock, and then just sit there laughing at your opponent. It could work. As I've said, I consider Zygarde to be almost criminally underplayed, but he is starting to see a little bit of love. People are starting to play with him, people are starting to see success, and when you just look at the basic stats, the HP, the attacks, the fact that he can use things like Strong Energy and Fighting Fury Bout and Max Elixir because he's a basic, and that he's got a support card like Carbink there that can cover awkward things like, for instance, Jolteon, I really do think there's a huge amount of potential. Now, I don't know the best way to play Zygarde. If it were me, I would probably go ahead and be using Carbink and maybe a couple of techs like Zebstrika, but of course that's the way I tend to play decks. I encourage you all to have a look around and see what the best Zygarde list is, because you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this could be very, very good. Now, this being YouTube, there are certain things you need to know, but by now I'm hoping you know the deal. Put some comments down, click the like button, click subscribe. Hey, maybe you click that little thumbnail that just came up on the screen. Watch another one of my videos. Have some more good times. You can follow me on Twitter @TheWassy, and I suggest that you should. And the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.